Hey everyone, Voltie here. Today we're going to be doing a rundown of CanCon. There was a big event at the end of January, which is the National Highlander Championships for 2025. It was a big event, it was great from everything that I heard, and we finally got enough of the data in and the deck lists being uploaded that we can check out what the story of the weekend was. So very quickly, we had 180 players. There were 8 rounds of Swiss with a top 8. Within the top 8 were 8 unique decks, and they fell into 7 archetypes. So as you can see here, we had Lutri Grixis, Jund, Shops, non-Lutri Grixis, Lurrus Breach, Lurrus Mardu, Sultai Reanimator, and Lutri Blue Moon. So 4 companions in the top 8. Little bit surprising that a non-Lutri Grixis deck made it in, just because a lot of people have decided to fall on that side of the fence. But well done to all of these players, and obviously congratulations to Scott for taking it down. So the most played pointed cards over the weekend, we've got some normal offenders here, although the order of everything is a little bit different. So we've got a bunch of Reanimates, and then Deathrite and Force of Will at 43 each, Ancient Tomb and Bowmasters, Fable, which actually did get a lot of play after the pointing, Psychic Frog as well, which also got pointed, and then Saga, Broadside, and Caracas. So if you look here, every single one of these cards is 1 point, which is not something that we're surprised seeing when it comes to the most played pointed cards, although there is always room for a 2-point card to make it in. The top cards by point buy were Reanimate, Deathrite, Force, and then Lurrus and Soaring, which both had 14 copies, Walk and Vamp Tutor, and Lutri, and then Ancient Tomb, Bowmasters, and then White Plume down here. So quite a lot of cards actually that were several points made it into the point buy. In some of the other videos and other events, we've had like 1 or 2 or 3 cards, but here a lot of people willing to invest a lot of points into these pointed cards. Lurrus and Lutri not particularly surprising, but I think the appearance of Soaring and Vamp Tutor was a bit interesting, and I'm glad to see that people are still willing to pay the points for White Plume. The most played mainboard cards, these are mostly the same cards that we've seen, although the order is pretty dramatically different this time round. So 130, a bunch of Mental Missteps, still about a third of the field not playing the card. We then had 86 Thoughtseizes and 86 Bolts, and then Brainstorm, Inquisition, Ponder, Probe, Fatal Push, Preordain, and then Bauble. It's very interesting that there isn't a creature that cracked into the top 10 this time. We had Tamiyo at the Plenty of Games event, which is the last time I did stats. But most importantly, Brainstorm didn't get unseated by 1 card, it got unseated by 2. It's not surprising for Misstep and then Brainstorm to be the first 2, but having Thoughtseize and Lightning Bolt both see more play than Brainstorm is pretty surprising to me. Notable as well, Emperor of Bones was the most played creature, and it actually overtook Swords to Plowshares as well as all of these other cards. So people really steering away from white as a general trend. The most played sideboard cards, these are much the same. We've got 2 Rebs, 2 Bebs, Brotherhood's End, Hearse, Submerge, Vacuum, Carpet, and Ashiok. All of these have appeared as the most played sideboard cards. The massive uptick in Brotherhood's End was a bit surprising to me, and Submerge has also picked up quite a lot of equity. So people accepting that their opponents have forests for Submerge, for example, and being or wanting to be prepared for the artifact decks. So here are the top performers by the top 8 conversion factor. So this is Murktide, Lutri, Dreadhorde, Gush, Intuition, Mishra's Workshop, Ren and 6, Lurrus, Mana Drain, and Underworld Breach. The vast majority of these cards had very little representation, but did very well and secured some spots in the top 8. And then the top pointed cards by the winning conversion factor, so this is a much larger category. Gifts, Library, Profane Tutor, Tainted Pact, Wishclaw, Thassa's Oracle, Recall, Workshop, Intuition, Academy. A lot of these cards as well, very little representation. But on this slide, we've separated the cards that had at least 3 copies. And this is some of the more popular cards that also did well. So Workshop, Intuition, Academy, Breach, Lyris, Mana Vault, Tinker, and Murktide. If you clump Tainted Pact and Thoracle together, that kind of counts as 1. If you clump Workshop, Academy, and Mana Vault together, which all appear in the same decks, I won't include Tinker for that because there are Tinker decks that don't exist in the Shops decks and Shops decks that don't play Tinker. And then if you group Intuition, Breach, and Lyris, you get a similar story. So in terms of the winners for the weekend, it looks like it was Thoracle, Shops, and Breach. So going into the winners, Black was very popular, as noted by the most played cards. Fatal Push, Unseeded Swords to Plowshares, which is pretty rare. But the deck, the color itself performed pretty reasonably, certainly about average. Shops was quite popular, more popular than normal, and it performed very well. So the fact that we pointed Academy to 2 we did notice some trends and some differing opinions on where the points needed to go. But the card itself and the deck itself did very well. And Lyris, Breach, and Thoracle weren't incredibly popular, but they did well. They on average, the people who decided to sleeve up those decks did perform well or better than expected. So that's it for the CanCon stats. Down below there'll be a link to the Excel sheet where you can, read through all the deck lists, read through all the data, and make sure that you have a better idea of what the story looks like in terms of what came through. But otherwise, the next time around that you'll see me for doing some stats will probably be the RC side event. So we'll see you all then. But otherwise, that's it from me. Catch you all later.